What's up, guys? Welcome to the 105th episode of The Get Down, brought to you by Digital Music Pool. My name is Kareem.
Yeah, W here.
Took a little hiatus last week, so I think we're going to really just kind of jump right into our topics of the day. I think our three topics are pretty interesting, and I'm excited to talk about them. So,
For sure.
we've been working on our goals calls with a lot of our team members. It's like 2 or 3 calls a day, and really just kind of digging into some of the things that have been happening with them and how 2021 went, how 2023 plans to go. And in those conversations, we've gotten a lot of topics, I think, that are really relevant to all you guys listening and what's happening in your DJ life. So one of the first things, this is a big thing that's been going on with us, but we have a few situations where we have some resident DJs and some people that we've worked with where they're really comfortable in a place. They've been there for a couple years and there's changes, right? Ownership changes, management changes, promoter changes, where situations where Get Down has come on and is now the main booker for a venue. So I think let's talk a little bit about, as a DJ, how do you handle these situations and how do you really make sure that you don't lose bookings?
There are a lot of different ways to look at this. There's a lot of situations in how these things get handled, right? It's like, do you get an opportunity when a new manager or booker comes in? Are they giving you an opportunity to play? That's number one, right? Because a lot of times, I think you've probably dealt with this too, but a few times I've dealt with like a new management, new ownership coming in, and then getting just phased out because they want to use their own people.
I think that's what I would expect as I was growing. Most of the time when a new team would come on, I'd be like, all right, well, my time here is probably over.
Yes. And that has happened time and time again, especially as a younger DJ. If you're not, when you're not as established and you don't have as much of a name, especially in your market or the place that you're playing at, I don't care if you've been there for 5 years. What happens is there's new management coming in for a reason. They're trying to change things up, right? And that new manager wants to put his own spin on things, or his or her new spin on things, usually. And they try out new things. And a lot of times that will begin with entertainment. And then that's kind of the first thing that gets switched up, at least in our eyes, it does, because it affects us directly. But if you do get that opportunity to go play in front of that new management or ownership, you have to, first of all, make the most of it. Make yourself known, show yourself as a valuable teammate, and somebody who really works well with everybody that's in the place, whether that's the bartenders or the bouncers or the other managers that maybe have stuck around, whatever it might be. You have to show some kind of value. That's the biggest part of it. And then you have to execute behind the decks and do what you need to do to keep your crowd there, to keep your crowd engaged, and show that there's a reason why you've been in that room for a very long time. It's all of those things. And then also bridging the gap with the new ownership or management, which isn't always easy, but you have to almost go out of your way to not set up a meeting, because that person's slammed, right? Like they're worrying about liquor reps and food and, the chef and the menu, et cetera. So like, you're not going to get a meeting, because entertainment, as it is very important for the bottom line for the business, it's not always the first thing thought about. We've said this time and time again over the past 104 episodes. So it's not valued until something goes wrong. We know that. So you're not getting a meeting. So when you get that FaceTime, you have to make as much of that FaceTime as possible. Like, how can I really capitalize on this time that I have with this new person that's in charge? So there's a lot of factors that go into it. And I know that seems overwhelming, but you want to stay in that room, or if you want to stay in that room, those are the things you need to think about. A lot of guys can stand there and you can be upset that, all right, things are changing and it's not going to be like it used to be. It might be a little more difficult to get a gig here, or maybe I'm going to get phased out, like I said. But instead of sulking, you have to be proactive. Don't be reactive, be proactive. That's the most important part of it.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah, I think so. As a lot of the things that we've talked about over the years, as far as when you are a resident and if you're doing all the right things as the DJ, right? And you've built those connections with the staff, you have a relationship with the owner, or, you know, if the staff really likes you, they'll fight for you also. So if you've been doing a good job and you're not the problem, because maybe you're the problem, that's the other thing. Maybe you're the problem and you're part of the reason why this place isn't doing that well, because maybe you're not playing the right music, or you're not bringing people out, or you've just been there for so long they need a change, or you're playing the same sets. So I think if you're doing all the right things in your venue and you're in good standing with the current staff, I think the staff will fight for you and say, hey, Gary's been really great with us. He always brings people out. He always does a great job. He's super professional. We love working with him. We should continue to work with him. That's a check mark in your book with the new group coming on, whatever level that might be,
Yeah.
And then to your point, as far as building a relationship with the new group that's coming in or new people that are coming in, like you said, you might not be able to get FaceTime. So I would definitely try and get in there and meet them face to face and have this conversation. But if you have to resort to a text or an email or a voice note, I think you need to really sell yourself. You need to really express your value proposition, right? Which is what makes you better than the next guy that they're going to bring in. Why should they continue booking you? What are the reasons? If you consistently sell bottles and you bring people out, that's one of your reasons. If they make more money on the days when you're there, even if it's less money than they'd like to be making, you're still making a difference, So again, all those things that you should be doing to solidify yourself in that room, you can then express to this new person or people why you should continue to work there. I think also just saying, hey, I understand you're going to come in and want to do your own things and make some changes. I would love to be a part of whatever you're trying to do. And I'm willing to change, adapt. If you need to change the music, I'm willing to work with you to create this new experience for customers moving forward. I think a lot of times when DJs are in this situation, they're very defensive. They're not open to change. They don't want to lose their gigs. So, even if you're able to keep 2 out of your 4 gigs for the month, be happy. You're keeping something, because like I said earlier, in these situations, I generally would say, well, if I'm going to lose all my gigs, like I think that's the standard. Most time people are going to come in, they're going to clear house and do their own thing.
Yeah. To talk about, to get back to the talking to ownership or the new people that are in charge, just real quick, like FaceTime is paramount, right? It's the most important thing that you can do, because I've been in situations where I've talked to an owner and they were planning on going a different direction, and then I met them in person, or even I was on the inside and they said, oh, well, we were going to change directions with XY DJ. And he came in and he talked to me. He's a really good guy. He's professional. And he told me kind of what he can bring to the table, and that he's going to be a team player here. And then they kind of were like, okay, well, we're going to give him a chance.
Right.
When you're just a name on a flyer, or you're just a text message in somebody's phone, you're easily dismissible. But when you meet somebody and they can gather like the kind of vibe that you create, or the kind of vibe that you're bringing to your workplace, I think it makes it a lot more difficult for them to replace you. So that's a really important thing. So get that FaceTime no matter what happens. But because, like I said, like just even a phone call goes a long way, but I still don't think that is as important and as effective as if you meet up with the person, and if you have to go to the bar or nightclub,
that's what I was just going to say. You're probably going to have to just go a couple
every
times.
day that they're open. Like if you have to go every day that they're open until you come across this person, like that's what you have to do. If that's how passionate you are about staying at that venue. If you don't really care, then you don't have, you're not going to go this length to stay there.
I'll also give you guys a tip. Something you should never do is use the beginning of the sentence. Well, we used to do this. No one gives a fuck about what you used to do. That,
Right.
What are we doing now? How do you fit into the situation now? How do you bring value now? no one cares about what used to happen or what was happening,
No, there's a reason things are changing.
Right.
The partners or whoever's involved financially all the way up top needed to make a change and wanted to make a change, and it's for a reason. So it doesn't matter what had happened last year or 6 months ago or last week even.
Yeah.
They're trying to go a different route, and you need to think how things are going, how you are going to make things get better for that venue.
We use these situations as opportunities as Get Down started forming, and you and I started working together, where it's like, all right, well, there's a new manager coming in. We should let them know that we have really quality DJs and we could fill the calendar for them, where we could take this off of their plate if it's not something that they want to be fully involved in. Sometimes a manager or a new person will come on, they'll be like, well, I don't know any DJs. I don't know anything about booking talent, but Kareem does, Gary does. Maybe we should partner with them. Or maybe they don't even know that we did that and we had to bring it to their attention. That was part of our value prop of, hey, not only can Gary and I do a great job, we have a DJ that's on Z100 and Power 105 that also is one of the bigger names right now. We could bring him in, or we could bring this other DJ in that plays at these other spots that are similar to the vibe that we're going to. And that was one of the ways that we were able to lock in more venues for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the more you work, the ways that we did it, the more we work in the industry, the more people we know, and the more people that say, "Oh, well, there's a management change at such place," so we went and stepped in there. Like that's a great place. That's a great place and a great time to do it. I was smirking because I was just thinking about like other ways that like we've tried to expand, and it's like, well, there's a construction permit on this door. Like, let's go find out who made this investment. But to get back to what we were saying, like it's just things are always going to change no matter what, and I think it's just very important to stay positive and to understand like what you can do to just make that place better and move that place forward, no matter who's in there. It becomes difficult though, especially when it's new management that's trying to prove something to ownership. It becomes really, really hard because they're going to maneuver and move things around in ways to just try to generate more income for the business to show what their value is. And that's first and foremost. They don't care about you. Their care is the bottom line. And they're going to continue to kind of push and pull things in ways to see how much income they can generate in a very short period of time. So they're going to make these drastic changes. So I think it's also very important to be malleable with those people and let them make those changes and show yourself as a team player. Like, all right, you might lose a set because they put a band on or something like that. And you got to be like, all right, you know what? That's a good idea. Did that worked for you last week? Then that's good. Like, that's awesome. Like, go that route. And then, if that doesn't work out because you didn't cause a stink, guess who's getting called back to take that set again,
right?
So it's really important, I think, to stay positive, because especially if you're being kept on, as long as you're being kept on the team, it's stay positive and look at things more positively for the business.
Right. Instead of fighting the change, accept the change and offer your own ideas. Maybe you've had ideas that the old ownership or management weren't open to that potentially the new management might be, and say, here's the reasons why I think this would work. It was something that I always wanted to try, but never got the opportunity to. And then just like that, maybe, and if it works and it gets implemented by the new management, just like that, it's like, wow, Gary really brought this great idea to the table and it worked and it's making us more money. Like, he's even more valuable than just being a good DJ.
Right.
So there are so many layers to it. And one thing that you just mentioned, when that person does come on and they're new and they're looking to make a stamp, they have to do what's best for them. It's not personal, it's not a personal thing 99% of the time. And as the DJs or the DJ group, we have to understand that, this might hurt us for the short term, but let's work together, make this the best possible place. And then it's going to be good for everybody in 3 months, 6 months, a year.
Yeah, I agree.
The other thing I was thinking of in our market, some of the DJs who are really like the staples of certain places, and if you become the staple and your name is synonymous with a venue, it's going to be really hard, no matter new ownership, new management, new promoters, if they come in, that they can get rid of you. And if they get rid of you, 6 or 7 other places are going to be lined up waiting to make you their resident because you did such a great job of being like the face or the person of your venue that you've been in for a long time.
An extremely important part of that, though, is when you are and if you are let go from your long-term residency, it is extremely important that you leave in a very amicable way, that you don't throw people out on social media. You don't go to bartenders and talk shit that I've been here forever. Can't understand how they're getting rid of me. You can do that with your DJ friend, your girlfriend, your wife, whatever it might be. You can talk that shit like behind closed doors. Do not go and do that to another manager at another place. Do not do that to a bartender, even if it's at another venue, because within our industry, everybody's connected somehow, whether they're dating, whether they're best friends, we have situations where we deal with an ownership where they're best friends with somebody and our DJs can't go and play at their best friend's venue because it's just a business decision.
Yeah.
So people are interconnected in ways that you probably don't even know about. So it's very, very, very important to stay positive within the industry. Therefore, you don't burn a bridge. And it's not even like you went in there and you like cursed out the new ownership or like made a stink at the place. It's just something as simple as being like, can you believe they fucking let me go at this place? What a bunch of assholes. They're so unprofessional. That's going to get back to that person no matter what. And then you're done. Like if that place then expands and then they can use you because you were the resident at that old place. Well, we have a new place. We figure he would fit. That ain't happening.
Right. Now you're blackballed.
Now you're blackballed. And now you've dug yourself a ditch. So that is super, super important when leaving a place. Do it in a way that's very professional and that you're hireable again.
In most cases, even if they've done you wrong in some sort of way, if you are going to post something to let people know you're no longer there, it can still be positive, right? It could be like, hey guys, I'm no longer associated with this venue, but you can catch me every Friday and Saturday moving forward at this place, right? Just to like let people know what's going on, and you do it the right way. And like you said, you don't burn the bridge. You don't talk shit in public, because not for nothing, when we see DJs that like go on these rants on social media talking about other venues or other DJs or whatever, it makes me personally, I don't know about you, but it makes me not want to work with them, because it's like, dude, I don't know, like no matter how bad it could be, like handle that behind the scenes, behind closed doors. Like don't put the dirty laundry out there. The only time I'm okay with is if somebody like owes you money and really did something dirty to you, and like you really want to put it out there and just make sure that other DJs don't meet the same fate. And that's only if you'll never in a million years work for this company or hospitality group or owner ever again.
I think putting that stuff on social media is just, it's never a good idea. You know what? If somebody owes you money,
nothing positive can come from it.
No. So if somebody like owes you money and you want to let the rest of the DJ community know, like, hey, don't go work with this promoter because he didn't pay me, you just go tell other DJs. They're going to tell the word's going to get out no matter what happens. I just don't believe in blowing somebody up on social media in a way that it's going to, because you just don't know. It could negatively impact you in the future.
Right. As DJs, when we all talk shop, it's like, yo, did you see that this person got let go? And like, so everybody knows what's going on. So even if it's the right story or not, like DJs are going to talk about changes in our market no matter what. So, if somebody did you dirty, it's going to get around our group of friends or our market, like you just said. You don't need to
honestly, it goes up and down the coast. Like I know stuff that, we know stuff that goes down in multiple markets, and why people don't get booked because they didn't move in the correct way. So it's as large as the DJ community is, it's still very small. Due to social media and everything else, people know each other and people book each other in a lot of different places. So, word gets around. So you really have to move in the right way, especially now.
So one of the other one of the other topics that's come up on a lot of our calls is like being booked and being busy versus being booked in the right places. And I think there's a lot of ways to go with this conversation, but I think the best way to break it apart is if you're a young DJ who's just starting out versus if you're an established DJ looking to make a jump to the next level. So let's talk a little bit first about younger DJs and like how they should approach that.
I've always took the stance of as a young up and coming DJ, book your calendar as much as you can, book it out. And we talked about this probably 2 episodes ago, that it's because the more time you get behind the decks, the more skilled you can become. And I think at a younger DJ, you're not always getting booked at those premier places, and having those versatile gigs that are like bar gigs that you really have to kind of maneuver your set around depending on who's in the room. Like in a way where it could be like a bunch of 60-year-olds or it could be a bunch of 25-year-olds. And like, I feel like that only helps you musically because you really have to adapt quickly. So as a young DJ, I'd say take as many gigs as possible, because even if they're lower end gigs that aren't as glitz and glammy, like I said, I think that time behind the decks is paramount to your success moving forward.
Those hours clocked are the most important thing. Hours clocked with an actual crowd in front of you, and gaining experience in reading a crowd and understanding what records work, right? Because that will, as you grow, that'll help you, and you'll have these bullets in the chamber, so to speak, of right. Songs and runs and things that you know will work no matter what age you're in, or what will work when you're with 21-year-olds, or what will work at a wedding compared to what will work in a nightclub. And the only way to really figure that out is to live through it and play those sets and figure it out on your own. So yeah, I agree with you. As a young DJ, you want to take as much as you can, especially if you're just kind of bursting on the scene, and other people will take notice, right? Venues that are the next level, or those premier spots, like you said, we'll start to see like, oh, who the hell is this Gary W. person? I see him booking gigs all over the city. Maybe we should book him, or who's this guy who is opening at the competitor nightclub? He's playing a local bar gigs, but he's the opener at this spot. Maybe we should try and use him. That goes a long way of your perception in the market and what you're doing. If you're playing a lot of gigs and people are seeing your name a lot, they're going to want to find out who you are and what you're all about. So maybe they follow you on Instagram. Maybe they message you and ask you like what you're trying to do. So being busy and working, you get that experience portion, but you also get that marketing and that people see how you're moving in the market and where you're playing. Yeah. And that's really important in order to grow and grow quickly.
I still use logging hours for my experience portion of my DJ life, because I have 2 and 3 weeks off at a time. So like I'll gig as much as I can in a weekend. And by the time I'm like in my 10th hour of DJing for the weekend, like, yeah, like I get all those feels back of like how to read the room. Not even the 10th hour. It's probably like really the second or third, but like, it's just really good to have those hours under your belt, because it just makes your DJ life so much easier. Like I said, even if you're an older DJ gigging less often, sometimes it's good just to maybe you pick up an extra gig just to like sharpen some skills or mess with some music you haven't messed with in a while. So it is good for older DJs too.
Something just to go off on that point. I've not been playing Thursdays very much anymore. And, Thursday was like a full night, open to close set. It kind of let me get warmed up for the weekend, right? Like play some new music, see if it works in front of a crowd, just like get the hands moving and get ready to go for the rest of the weekend. And then those headline Friday and Saturday gigs, you like come in and you already did your open to close, and you could just go smash a headline or 2 headliner sets. And I don't have that right now. So it's like, I've been saying like, man, I need to set up my turntables and just like have them so I can mess around a little bit on a Thursday, just to get the hands moving a little bit and get the brain thinking and test out a little music at home.
I loved when I was gigging regularly, I loved my Thursday set more than anything because of that exact thing. even when my Thursday residency was like crazy, 300-400 people, and like everybody was partying super, super hard, that I always felt like the first like hour in that set, like I was still warming back up, even though I had just DJ'd on Sunday.
Yeah.
But then when that party started to die out a little bit, I liked to do it for the points that you just said. I liked to I still got excited for those sets because what did I download today? What am I into this week that I wasn't into last week and I could kind of mess around with?
Right. Like, how do I start my set this week that's going to be different from last week? It gives you an opportunity to hit a lot of different things. Maybe you could, especially if it's an open format room, you can hit any genre throughout the night, which is nice.
So for my older DJs who aren't DJing as much, or my producer DJs who aren't DJing as much and are focused on producing. Go ahead.
I have one more point. Sorry. Before we move on to the older DJs, but also as a younger DJ, not only is it very, very important to fill your calendar out, when you're not booked, it's equally as important to be out and about on the nights where you're not working, because maybe, you know, that's how you're going to meet those other people that can help you move up in the world. And it could be like, oh, you're Gary. I've been seeing you playing all over the city. Like, that's where you get to meet those people that have the ability to book you at the next level spot. So, you know, gigging, taking as many gigs as you can, even if it's not something you really want to do, or getting that experience, but then also on the off nights, going out, meeting the DJs you really want to meet, going to the places you really want to work, and being seen in the market as much as DJing in the market.
If you're on the come up and you're a younger DJ, you're going to have nights off. It's just inevitable, right? But you have to capitalize on those nights off, like you said. Because I know you and I, even when we were hanging out before Get Down even started, like we had nights off. We had nights that we had to fill still. And we were pretty established at the time, not like fully established, obviously, but we were established playing in a lot of the bigger rooms in our market. But there was still a stray Thursday and sometimes even a stray Friday.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely be recognized and show up to those parties, like you said. But what I was saying about the older DJs, guys that are maybe not gigging as hard, but like still doing, like you said, still DJing here and there. And then especially I'm thinking about producers here who are logging a lot of studio time, but not a lot of DJ time. Go and take a gig here and there and keep your DJ skills fresh. Even if it's not a gig that is to what your brand or, you know, where you want to be brand wise, then like we always say, just, you don't have to promote that party, but like find somewhere that you can get that
open decks, like something to go and test records and just get out there and stay fresh a little bit.
Yeah. It's because when you do hit it big, like you still want to execute. You don't want to be the producer that can't mix, you know, or can't, you know, whatever it might be. I mean, you get these DJs that aren't these producers, DJs that aren't as skilled on the DJing side of things. Like, you know, it's exposed pretty quickly when
you don't want to be the guy playing a mix when your music blows up and you're now thrown into the spotlight.
Yeah, for sure. But
so, all right. So we talked about the younger DJs. I think the more established DJs who kind of have built some experience, you know, they've been in the game a little bit. People know who they are. Now you're at a point where it's, what do you want to do, right? Maybe you don't want to do private events anymore and you only want to focus on nightlife. Maybe it's the vice versa. And you don't want to do nightlife and you want to do private events. And maybe you've realized you only want to play clubs and you want to produce music, or you start to get a feel for what you really want to do. And I think that's at the point where you have to start saying no a lot more, right? Saying no to the gigs that don't match your style. Like if you're a house DJ and someone asks you to go play a hip hop room, like it doesn't make sense. Can you do it? Yeah, you could probably do it, but like it doesn't fit your brand. It doesn't help you gain fans with what you're really trying to do. So it doesn't make sense to take that booking. You're better off taking that night off and either spending time in the studio or spending time networking with the venues that do make sense for you or the people that do make sense for you. And I know a lot of us are really like, we have to fill our calendar. We have to make money. But I've been in the game for whatever many, 12, 13 years, right? And it's like, it's still hard for me to say no and be like, I need to focus and spend time going to network or go to that other city. Or, you know, it's so much more important than taking a gig that doesn't fit my brand or is below the pay rate or whatever whatever reason it would be for you to say no.
Yeah, I mean, you can speak to this better than I can because you're really fully in the midst of this currently. And you've been doing a really, really, really good job at it, at saying no to gigs that like you're really just not interested in, and taking off on a Sunday because you need that time off to just reset. That's a big thing too. And one of our younger DJs kind of brought this to our attention yesterday, where he kind of was like, dude, I'm just tired. I got to shut it down for a little bit. Like I need to take a little time off. And to have that like ability to understand that you're tired and that it's going to affect your sets in the long run, and it might affect your business long run.
Yeah, your personal life, it affects everything.
It affects everything. So it's really important to be able to recognize when that's happening and to take a step back, and then to take a calculated step back and know where you need to do that. Whether it's, God, I booked way too many weddings and that's exhausting because of all the things that come along with it, and meetings, and then executing at the wedding and performing and loading and unloading, etc. Or is it, I'm playing too many night gigs and getting home at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and that's affecting my private event life. Whatever it might be, you have to figure out what's serving you and what's not, and how to add and or subtract in order to, number one, keep things afloat financially, but number two, to conserve energy for long-term success. I think that's super, super important.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the way to look at it would be, yeah, you might be losing out on, let's say, we're just going to use like average random numbers. You're going to lose 350, right? Because you didn't take your local bar, whatever gig that you could always have whenever you want. Yeah, you might be losing that $350, but taking that night off allows you to go to the next level of venues. It allows you to go network with the promoter or DJ group that's booking a lot of venues, and maybe better venues, or maybe venues in New York City and you're in New Jersey and you want to get into a bigger market. And like, yes, you're going to lose that money short term in the $350, but if you take that night off and use it to go network with the right places and the right people, you're setting yourself up for success down the line. You're helping yourself grow. Taking that $350 gig is stunting your growth, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we all need to pay bills. Yes, we need to work to stay relevant. Yes, we need to take care of our residencies. But the overarching thing, that the advice that we've given to all of our DJs, is the networking part of it. Being calculated about it. Where do you really want to work? What makes sense for you? And then going and being there and meeting those people. And like, I can't say it enough, because every DJ on every level can take this advice, and it can help your business. It can help you get bigger rooms. It can help you make more money. So take that night off, build it into your calendar, block it off, treat it as if it's a gig, and not just, oh, it's a night off. Like, I'm going to sit on the couch and watch Netflix. Like, you have to treat it as if it's a working night, and it's a networking night.
I think that the next question that we have posed can help make this decision almost for you. And the next question that we had posed here for a topic was, would you rather have an idea of what the room is like, or would you rather read the room and do what you want to do? And I think in making decisions, in picking up gigs, whether you're an older DJ or a younger DJ, this could really dictate whether you want to take that gig or not, right? Like, somebody asks you to play a room and they're like, well, now you have to play this music. Even if the room doesn't say that you should be playing that music, well, they're telling you have to play that music. Is that a gig you really want? Or do you want to have more of the ability to read the room yourself and have some creative freedom? But what I mean by creative freedom is creative freedom within doing what's right for the room, and then looking around the room and saying, okay, this is what they want. This is what I'm able to play. I think that sometimes as a younger DJ, we get caught up in, well, I want to play this one genre, and that's fine. But then you have to go find those rooms that want that genre as well. And you're not going to be given that creative freedom on the other end. Like, so I don't care if it's a hip hop spot and we could tell, look, it's a hip hop spot. I could tell people want hip hop, but the management and the ownership wants house music. Well, you have to play the house music, right? But if I'm a house DJ, I'm going to go play there because I can play house music and I don't have to get away from it, and I'm not going to get bitched at. This is really like this is a tough topic to get into.
There's nothing worse for me as a DJ than going to a room and having to play music that I know the room doesn't want to hear. That to me is like worst case scenario of
Yeah.
of a club that I'm playing, because it's like it's hard, because it's like I look at it as the crowd thinks I'm a shitty DJ because I'm not reading the room and playing what I know and they know is going to make the crowd happy and make them dance. My job in my head is like, as if I'm just like narrowing in on what I'm doing as I'm DJing, it's like, how do I get these people to really like what I'm playing and dance and be happy and want to be there? And if management takes that ability out of my hands, I want no part of being in that place.
I completely agree. I completely agree.
It makes it a job. It makes it not fun for me. It takes away, what's the point of booking me? Why do you want to spend the money to book me then? Spend $200 on a DJ who's never played before and give them a playlist and tell them to DJ it. Like,
right. I get those like really awkward tingles when I have one song in my set that doesn't work. I couldn't imagine doing a full night of that. Like, like just kind of eating it and being like, all right, well, I know that this place wants hip hop and I'm playing all house music, and like, but I'm like force feeding it to them where like I have to do it. Like those, like, I don't know. It wouldn't work out.
I would also say though, as experienced good DJs, you can find a way to make it work, right? You figure out a way to make it work. If you know the room really wants a certain style of music and you're stuck playing another style of music, there are tracks out there that kind of at least cross both genres so that management's happy and at least the people that are there aren't like pissed.
Yeah.
They're not going to be happy. Like if you're in a Latin room and you're playing only Latin tech house, like they're going to want to hear the original stuff. But at least they're hearing the vocals in the style that they're looking for. Where management, it's like, all right, at least they're playing up tempo 126. This is what we wanted, kind of thing.
I've been stuck in that situation where like at my Latin night, I'll open up with like Latin house and like people come up and be like, I thought it was Latin night. It's like, oh, well, be patient. We're getting there. There's 8 people in the room, kind of a thing. So I understand it from that perspective where like you try to kind of toe the line to where, okay, well, it's Latin inspired, so we can get away with this. But at the end of the day, the people that are showing up to hear or expect a certain kind of music, they want that kind of music. So it's hard.
When we're booking, right? When we're booking DJs, especially if it's DJs that don't normally work with us, I think it's really important that we offer them, we know the rooms. So I think it's really important that we offer them the styles that either management wants or we know work in the room. And the question I asked to you was like, would you rather have that information or would you rather just show up and play the room?
I want the information every time. Because I want to prepare. I want to, especially if I've never been in that room before. Like I want to be able to prepare and over prepare for that gig so that I can impress whoever's in there.
I'm asking everybody what they do in the
everybody.
In the room. What's successful? What does the manager hate? What do I don't do?
If you want to get booked again, then you have to do what the booker tells you to do.
What do the bartenders like to listen to?
Well, but that, Kareem, that is the one thing that, sure, when I'm more established at a place, I want to know that stuff. And sure, I want to know that stuff. You're right, though. I want to know that stuff as back pocket information.
I got a pro tip for you.
That's not gospel what the bartenders want, because there are plenty of venues that you and I both know that the bartenders want something completely different than the manager wants. And now you're in a weird place.
Yeah, but you want me to save the pro tip, or do you want me to drop it on you right now?
You know what? Go ahead.
All right. So I agree with you where a lot of times staff or bartenders want something completely different than what the owner or the manager or the booker is telling the entertainers to do. And I think sometimes that can hurt you trying to just please one of those people. But I do think in order to build rapport with the staff, it's good to know what they like. So if you've never played at a place before and you're just going there, I'll always go introduce myself to the bartender. I'll grab a drink, right? So instead of just standing there and like trying to figure out how to break the ice with this person, I'll say like, what's one song that you really want to hear tonight? And I won't ask like, what normally gets played here? Or what do you like? Like I ask specifically for one song because I know that throughout the course of my set, I could work that one song into the mix. And that person will hear it and be like, wow, Kareem actually listened to me. And like, he fit this in. And you could do that with other bartenders there, you know, and over the course of time, you get to know what they like. But that's a little pro tip, as a way to break the ice and kind of just get some information from the bartender.
Yeah, I mean, there's no easier way to break the ice with another person than it is
what's your favorite song right now? What are you listening to on repeat? Like any of those?
Yeah, music really it bridges that gap, and it's a great icebreaker. But yeah, so like the bartender thing, that is important, and you are right. You can put their song in at some point, and even if not at some point, at the end of the night when they're dragging ass and they're tired, and you play a couple of their favorite tracks. That's always a nice time to do it as well.
As a bonus, you jump on the mic and shout them out, and that's like a little extra, like huge shout to Mike who loves Loud Luxury or whatever it is.
Right.
Huge. That's a huge way to get brownie points, and just show that you're paying attention.
Yeah, because that bartender is saying, be like, well, I liked, because they felt personally, that they were taken care of personally. They're going to tell the management, the ownership, that they liked you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all want that information because it only will make you successful in the end. But reading the room at the same time is just as important.
That's what I was going to say. What happens when you get information from someone and then you go there and it's completely different? Like, then what do you do?
I think then you let the booker know or the manager know, like, hey, I don't think that this is working. But maybe you can give me some feedback as to why we're going in this other direction, or, I feel like this kind of works a little better than that. And then they'll let you know, well, why they want to do what they want to do, like why their musical direction's a certain way. I've been in that situation plenty of times. I've turned to managers and go, well, this isn't what we want, so I'm going to go and do this. Right. And they're like, yeah, that's fine. I'm like, well, there might be some people that might leave. Like you might lose some people on the dance floor. And they're like, and then that's when they have to give you the okay or not to go and do that.
Yeah. I think a lot of times, though, the manager's kind of MIA throughout the night. I agree with you. If you could have that back and forth as you're playing in a place with a manager, that's amazing. But a lot of the places, especially the bigger places, like, you don't see them. They say hello to you at the beginning of the night, and they're doing 8 million other things throughout the course of the night where they're not even going to stop into the booth until the very end of the night.
A lot of places now have group chats. A lot of places, at least you have the manager's phone number so you can text. Or you at least have your booker's information that you could text them and be like, hey, like this is going a completely different direction than I thought. Is it okay to go this way? Because you just don't want to put yourself in a position where you're not going to get booked again.
You know how to not get booked again?
Just do what you want.
When you get booked and the booker tells you this is what the owner and management wants, so you have to play this style of music, and then they do something completely different.
Yeah.
That's how you never get booked again.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so you have to consult with somebody along the lines, right? Because like, all right, I've gone awry. I've done something different because I think that's serving the room, and it might be, but I'm doing something that I was told not to do. So I have to let somebody know that this is where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Like you told me to play Jersey Club and I'm playing country music. You know what I mean? And like, I would need to let somebody know that that's the extreme that we're at. I'm not just going to take it upon myself to do that.
Yeah. It's a fine line to walk of being a DJ and doing what's best for the room and doing what you're been asked to do, kind of thing.
I have a feeling I'm going to have a lot of kickback in the comments about that, about like having over communication. But I think if you're somebody if you're not the decision maker in who gets booked in that room, and somebody else is booking you, I feel like having overt communication, it can only benefit you.
That might be the type of thing where you have that conversation at the end of the night and you're like, hey, I know normally we play this style of music, but there was 2 birthday parties that were really into this and where they were spending money. And I felt like we were going to make more money if we sat in that style of music a little more tonight. I think that at least lets the manager know that you're not just like completely disregarding what you were asked to do. And you were at least using your DJ brain and your business brain to say, these are the reasons why I think it was important that we did this tonight, because it helped you make more money or more people stayed or whatever the reason is.
So that's also good.
That's another way to do it if you can't really talk to them throughout the night. But I agree with you. Like if you could shoot a text mid-set and be like, hey, the house really isn't working tonight. There's a big group of people that are really into hip hop. I won't sit in it for a long time, but I'm going to go hit some of the big records right now, and then I'll go back to house. That at least gives the manager an idea of, I'm doing this for a reason. You know, I'm not going off on my own.
And that, to your earlier point, you can do the 3 hip hop tracks and then transition and do 3 like hip house tracks, you know, or play, 2 hip house tracks and play like the big whatever tech house track that's out right now, and then go back to your hip hop, and then maybe play some R&B, and then maybe hit some Jersey Club, and like, but be really calculated about it.
It's got to be
like,
quick. The minute you're on song number 4 of one genre that you're not supposed to be playing, my phone as a booker is going to be blowing up. Your phone as the DJ is going to be blowing up. Got to be quick.
It's a hard. Unfortunately, when you're being booked like that at a place and they're being specific about the music and they're not booking you for like what your DJ style is, it becomes hard because maybe sometimes that DJ is not as experienced. So it would be very difficult for an inexperienced DJ to be like 3 songs.
Yeah.
Because it's you have to be like over prepared and have a crazy knowledge of just your music library and just a lot of experiences in getting in and out of all of these genres fast. So
yeah, it's just another reason why you should really just take the gigs that make the most sense for you and what your skills are.
Right.
Because if you're not built to be able to do that, then that's not a place you should be working, type of thing.
Agreed.
I mean, have we hit everything in that world?
We have.
I agree with what you said, where I want all the information, I want to know the person who booked me. I want to know what the manager has to say. I want to know what the bartender has to say. I want to know what the DJ who played last night has to say, or last Saturday has to say. And then I take all that information and like out comes my plan for the evening. And then sometimes, even like you said, you have to pivot off the plan and just do what's working or do what you're asked to do. And that's what makes a good DJ. And that's what makes someone that gets asked to come back. Was that even a sentence? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
So that's just my cherry on top of that conversation. So
agreed. All right.
You and I were checking out. I know we have Coachella coming up here, or the Coachella and the Bonnaroo lineups were released, right?
Yes, which a young Gary W. would anticipated this day for months prior to it happening. So I was
for
happy
Bonnaroo.
For both, because I wanted to compare just to see what was Coachella getting that the East Coast wasn't getting. Because I was a Bonnaroo head. I went to Bonnaroo from 2004 to 2011. Loved going out to the farm and camping and being with all the other people that like enjoy this wide spectrum of music. When I initially started to go, it was more of like a hippie festival. I mean, like I was a big Dave Matthews fan at the time, so he was doing an acoustic set, and that's the reason I went. And then it introduced me to so many different genres of music. They had a couple DJs there at the time I was DJing in college then. And so it was cool. So it was like, all right, well, I get this opportunity to go camp out 3 days. There's a bunch of different types of genres and artists and all types of things happening. So I went to that. As years went on, Coachella became bigger and bigger and bigger. In 2007, they added their 3rd day. I think they added a Sunday or a Thursday, whatever it might have been. And then in 2012, they went to 2 weekends in a row. And I guess it was always the same artists. We were talking about this offline that I guess both weekends were always the same artists. I guess it was the way to capitalize on money, like for the artists to make a lot of money,
Right.
and the festival probably got the most bang for their buck that way. But I got a text from my buddy that we would look forward to these lineups every year. And his text was the Bonnaroo lineup, and then under it just said, "I'm old." Because like I guess he didn't know a lot of the artists that were involved. Bonnaroo has evolved from like more of a hippie festival to a pop music festival with, with also older bands that get involved. Like, so for example, the Foo Fighters are headlining Sunday. So I think they kind of still stick to that kind of balance between old and new. And then Coachella's got Bad Bunny headlining, which is incredible. Like I don't know why I was surprised. I guess because I don't look at him as a festival act. I think he's bigger than a festival at this point.
I'm pretty sure he played Coachella maybe 2018 or 19.
Yeah, but
Obviously not as the
he wasn't
headliner.
Bad Bunny. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
as we talked about in our year end, like he's like transcended music in a way where like I just don't like him at a music festival. It's weird to me because he can go sell out wherever he wants, whatever stadium he wants, whatever beach he wants to put 250,000 people on.
He's gonna help sell out Coachella. I'll tell you that much.
But Coachella's gonna sell out no matter what. So it's a booking that is. You know what? It opened my eyes. Like, wow, Coachella like really did it big. They probably paid a lot of money for him.
I mean, they give Calvin Harris also.
Yeah, but like but think about what you're saying. Like when you're thinking about Bad Bunny, it's like, oh yeah, Calvin Harris is cool.
Well, yeah, Calvin Harris hasn't really put out any relevant music for a while, but
I realized like Calvin was obviously like it was the biggest producer and is the biggest producer DJ maybe like ever.
And he was getting $250,000 a pop in Vegas to go play Omnia or whatever venue he was the resident over there. They were helicoptering him in. He'd play the show and he'd helicopter out and collect his $250K.
But it's just wild. The Bad Bunny booking's wild to me because I just couldn't understand it from his perspective. And I understand it from Coachella's perspective, why they would want him there. And I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure they paid him boatloads.
Yeah. I have a few things on this. So first and foremost, at my age and where I am in my life, like what it would take to get me to go to one of these and like camp and be there for an entire weekend, it would take a whole lot. Like you want to put me in like the glamping area? Yeah, I could do that. But like you put me in a tent without showers that are like your own shower and it's just not for me. Wait, like all the lines and a million people. It's just like so not for me.
Yeah.
That's just like the ultimate old guy taking the room. But beyond that, after looking at the two lineups, I would say one thing that I said to you offline was like, what percentage of the artists do you actually know? To me, it's probably like 30%, 35% maybe.
So the two lineups, I think, serve different people. I think the Coachella lineup serves a younger audience. Number one.
I like the Coachella lineup like 10x more than the Bonnaroo lineup. It's more interesting to me.
Right. Well, I'm going to speak to that in a second. So I think the Coachella lineup is younger. It's more poppy. There are definitely there's a bunch of DJs on there, obviously.
There's a lot of DJs, but I think the artists that they book are more relevant to me. It's just more people. Maybe it's just my musical taste, you know?
Right. Like, so for me, like, I don't love like, the Zed's Dead Thursday headliner. Meh. Kendrick Lamar would be cool. That's the Friday headliner. Odessa on a Saturday as the headliner, I'm scratching my head about a little bit.
I'm a fan of their music, and I think they have a really incredible live show. So that's probably part of the reason why.
Love their music. Yeah. To be honest with you, the Saturday is the weakest. That's the weakest day of either festival. I mean, like Bob Moses is super dope. Lil Nas X, all right. My Morning Jacket, I've seen a ton. I love. Korn is interesting. Rainbow Kitten Surprise, who I know you definitely don't know. They played I believe they played White Eagle Hall not too
Like
long
you
ago, which
skipped
is
Lewis
kind
the
of cool.
Child. That's the only person that you've mentioned so far that I would be remotely interested in going to see.
Lewis the Child. Okay. Like STS9's dope as like an old school hip hop act. Their DJ's incredible. Um, gosh, who else? Who else is on there? Like that's a weird day. But like I just named a bunch of different genres and odd people that like I've listened to or have seen over the years that are just weird.
You can go check out Sheryl Crow.
Sheryl Crow. I probably have seen Sheryl Crow at some point in my life at Bonnaroo. But like I like Coachella is like great. Like that Friday's crazy. Like Bad Bunny and Burna Boy. Like I like the first two, and the Gorillas. I mean, that's the first three names you see on the
Kate Tronada also.
Kate Tronada as well. Yeah, for sure. Blondie's kind of a funny one. Becky G, Metro Boomin. Like that's
Yeah, like
what a day.
Metro Boomin is bringing out everybody.
What a day. What a
Yeah.
day. And we haven't even gotten to the second line, you know?
Yeah.
That's incredible. And then like down low, like it's like vintage culture. And you know, there's in the little print, there's a bunch of really great acts as well.
A lot more house music and DJs on the Coachella lineup for sure. Whereas on Bonnaroo, there's maybe 1 or 2 DJs per day. On the Coachella lineups, there's like 5 or 6 per day, probably, or more, which is just a little different.
Yeah, the night tents at Bonnaroo are there like those are their house. I mean, I that's across the board at any festival, really. But I haven't been to Coachella, so I can't speak to the setup of the festival. But yeah, like the Alesso booking at Bonnaroo, I'm wondering kind of when that is. Is that going to be like a night tent situation on Saturday night? Possibly, which would be dope. But yeah, I mean, I like the balance of Bonnaroo better than Coachella, and that's probably why I've always went there. Because you get a little bit of everything.
I'm gonna talk about this from the other perspective. As someone who used to go to like EDM festivals, but then would also go to more hip hop festivals in New York here. And some festivals that were kind of mixed. I was always more of a fan of going to festivals that were all one style of music, like EDM solely, because you can venture off and go listen to all the different subgenres, and that might not be the thing that you're really into, but at least it's still in the same world. And like I would go, like I saw Skrillex, I didn't know who Skrillex was, and I was like, oh my God, I'm a fan of this person. This is incredible. They're doing like this dubstep thing with hip hop vocals, and it's like, what's going on? Whereas at these shows where it's very wide ranging, like I feel like the crowds aren't that into it sometimes because it's just people standing around because they're waiting for the next act that they really like. That's a different genre of music. And it's like, there's not as much energy and it's just not as exciting to me.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I completely understand that because you're right. In some of the shows, like there is more of a flat, if you will, crowd.
Yeah.
But I must say the greatest lineup of people that I've ever seen in my life, and probably I'll never see this again, was I went out to the field at like 5:30 main stage Bonnaroo, and I got to see BB King, and then following him was Jack Johnson's Sundown set, which was incredible, and then after Jack Johnson, Pearl Jam played, and then after Pearl Jam, Kanye West. So like it was, you couldn't run the gauntlet anymore on both ends of the spectrum, from BB King, you know, to Pearl Jam and Jack Johnson and Kanye, and it was just a wild, talented group of people, and that's why I like going to these things.
Yeah, and it also, in the same way that I talked about like going to the other tent and listening to a subgenre of music, you know, you're in a situation where it's like the next person is a complete, maybe it opens your eyes to another genre of music or a new artist that you might not have listened to if you hadn't been standing there waiting for, you know, the following person to come on or band to perform or whoever it would be.
You know, it's funny, when I was like my second or third Ultra Music Festival, when it was still down in the park in downtown Miami, I think that's the first time I saw Danny Tenaglia. And like, obviously I had every opportunity every single weekend to see Danny Tenaglia. And that was the first time I got to see him, because I didn't go see him in the clubs that he played at in New York, because they were a different style of music that I liked at the time. So to your point, I was like, oh, Danny's playing over in this tent, might as well go check him out. And then went over there and then became a lifelong fan of him because of it. So yeah, I get that from your perspective, where, you know what, I was so into progressive house and trance at that time that like Teneglia wasn't really something that was on my radar. And then after that weekend, he was. So yeah, I understand it from both perspectives. So what would the number one, what would be your number one show to go to in both lineups? Not to put you on the spot here.
I don't know. I'd have to like really dig through the whole list. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's a lot.
Chris Lake, I've never seen live, so that would probably be my number one. I'd love to
Yeah.
see Burna Boy also. I think, and Kate Renata. Those three kind of stand out to me on the Coachella lineup. Obviously, Bad Bunny I've seen a number of times, so like that'd be
Right.
awesome. But I've seen him already.
Yeah, I think Burna Boy would be my number one because I've been thinking I've been checking his tour dates to see if he's coming around anywhere that I am in the country at the time, and he's just not. So I would love to go see him. His
Yeah,
live shows look incredible.
I'm looking at the Bonnaroo lineup right now. I'm trying to figure out who that few people would be.
Yeah, this is not a lineup for you for sure.
No, I mean I'm gonna pick I'm
it.
gonna pick all of the like Grizz, who's like a dubstep DJ, you know? Like I've never seen him before, and I would Baby Keem, I don't know, would be cool to see live. It's not that I'm a huge fan, but I know his music and I'd be interested to see him live.
Yeah,
Obviously, I mean actually Kendrick would be number one for sure.
yeah, I think that's who I would pick as well. I think I'd pick Kendrick because I'd be interested just to see what his show's like. You know, it's not anything that I've ever sought out to look at, like
Yeah.
on YouTube or anything like that. But
I
yeah,
said 30% on the Bonnaroo list. There, it's probably like 15% of the artists that I know.
actually, you know who I would see? This is going to be ridiculous, but I've seen them a few times in like 150 person clubs. Diarrhea Planet, who I know you don't know who that is.
I know the name, but I couldn't tell you
I,
anything about them.
I don't like metal, and I enjoy their music. They just shred. It's ridiculous. They have like 7 guitarists. It's wild to me, but they're great.
These shows are made for people like you that really listen to a lot of different styles of music in your everyday life, you know? And I think I'm more the exception than you. I think most people are like you, whereas they're fans of multiple genres and go see different artists in different worlds.
I can attest the broad musical impact on my life is because of Bonnaroo. Like
Yeah.
I don't think without it I would be listening to so many different things. But you know, who knows? Anyway.
All right, I think this is a good point to wrap.
Yeah.
We covered a lot today. We got a little music convo in. So we have anything to promote, or I know you're coming up here next weekend. So the weekend of the 19th, you're going to be in town.
Yep.
If you want to come check out Gary, I am local all month. So I made it a point for January. I took a little time off in December. I am filled out my calendar a bit here in January, but I kept it local. We're still working on a lot of stuff on the business. So yeah, check my calendar, you guys, if you want to come out and pop out and say what's up, introduce yourself. I will be local in New York and New Jersey here for the next couple weeks. So
yeah, and I'll be back in the city next week. So if you're in New York City next Saturday, come see me. Hair of the dog. So
yeah, shout to Digital Music Poll if you guys want to check out DMP. All the great editors on there, myself, Angela the Kid, and you know the full list you can go check out. But click the link in the show notes in our profile on Instagram, and you can get your first month for $9.99. So check out DMP, one of my favorite record pools. Obviously, something that I'm on, but something that I also use. Great acapellas. You could search by key, and just great. We always talk about DMP as a great place to go for those like pop house edits and remixes, and I think it's mainly because of all the editors that are on there, and they're really good in that style of music. But
for sure.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of The Get Down. My name is Cream.
Gary W.
Peace out.
Peace, guys.